So tomorrow, the much-anticipated Brics Summit gets underway here in Johannesburg. And of course, earlier today, the President, Cyril Ramaphosa, welcomed his Chinese counterpart, Xi Jinping, who also promptly then announced a commitment to invest 14.7 billion rand in South Africa. Let's look ahead to what the summit will be all about. Dr. Adrian Saville, founder and chief executive of Cannon Asset Managers and professor of economics at Gibbs, joins us on the line. Thank you so much for your time. Good afternoon.
Afternoon. Great to be with you.
These commitments, this commitment made by Xi Jinping, is this what the BRICS is all about then? Is this why we are in it?
Well, I suppose it is a reason to be in it. In the greater scheme of things, it's a very modest commitment, and hardly, if you've looked at the Eskom numbers in the last couple of days, hardly the type of capital we need. But, finding access to trade partners, capital partners, and intellectual property partners, I think is exactly what BRICS is about, where you've got very deep pockets developing in China initially, more recently, India, intellectual property pockets and capability building spectacularly in China and India in particular, and then trade corridors being developed in a range of avenues. So the intention of BRICS, it's often sort of looked at rather, with a snide smirk. How does South Africa make it into this cluster? And it's about, recognizing the intention and the capability of four economies that each have the capacity to move the needle on their respective continents.
Let's talk about what a lot of people have pointed out, a lot of economists and, or at least the critics of the whole BRICS arrangement, to talk about the trade imbalances that exist between South Africa and China. What hope is there for such balances when even the United States, a behemoth like the United States, is actually up in arms about, at least Donald Trump, up in arms about the trade imbalances between the two countries? What hope is there for little old us?
I love it. We're talking about BRICS and we're already on to Trump.
Can't stay out of any party.
He belongs in every economics conversation.
Yeah.
Look, I think my throwaway observation on Trump would be, if you want an example of a person who hopelessly misunderstands economics, there's your guy. Because when he makes reference to the United States' relationship with China, he talks about it as a deficit relationship, that China sends far more to the U.S. than the reverse. And therefore, the way that you make America great is by building a wall and keeping the Chinese products out. What this fails to appreciate is that anything that's coming into the United States from China, an Apple phone, for instance, is coming in with a whole lot of U.S. technology in it. In other words, there was initially an export that went from the U.S. To China before it reverses. And then there's multi-country arrangements that when a product comes in, it has many partners and many industries that make up the final composite product. And that means that a conversation about trade or capital arrangements, the movement of anything across borders has to be multifaceted and multilateral. And I would venture that that's the jump-off point, which means it is a tough conversation. It is a complex conversation.
That said, then, of course, there's also been loans that have been mentioned that have been approved for Eskom and Transnet. Is that something to be happy about? And some unions have been critical of them, to say, why are we advancing loans to institutions that have been riddled with corruptions and stuff like that?
It's a tricky one. In the one instance or one breath, it's absolutely critical that these state-owned enterprises are well-run and well-funded. And in the recent past, they've been neither. They have been poorly run and poorly funded, and they've been used as a means to extract rents to particular interests. If the South African economy is to achieve anything like its economic growth capability and to provide services not just to big business but to shut off the power supply to a small business for half a day and you can break the business. It's absolutely critical that these SOEs get back into strong operational and financial performance, and access to funding is a first avenue there. It also requires then that the boards are restructured, governance and oversight is improved, that we make sure the misallocation of spending doesn't recur. But we've got to have access to capital, and at the moment, the capital markets that are funding South Africa are foreign capital markets. Look no further than China.
Absolutely. Dr. Adrian Saville, thank you so much for that. We look forward to maybe chatting to you a little bit later on in the week as well. Thanks so much for your time. Yeah. It's the founder and chief executive of at Cannon Asset Managers and professor of economics at Gibbs.